If you're anything like me, then you may just be a little too impatient and or a little too dull to fully enjoy blueprints as intended, meaning without some sort of guide or hints to help make things a little less confusing. And there's no shame in that. A puzzle game like this certainly isn't for everyone, but I thought that as someone who's sort of in the middle ground of this whole good game, bad game debate, and who partially agrees with both sides, that it'd be fun to throw in my 2 cents. Just to be clear before we begin, there will be no spoilers in this video. The footage is either from trailers or from my first few hours playing when I had no idea what I was getting myself into. This is a real Outer Wilds, just trust me bro kind of situation. A bit before the game was released, it was getting super high scores from critics, with a good number of them throwing around the words Game of the Year too. Hearing this made me very excited because Blueprints was already on my radar after I played the demo. And then on launch day, I was seeing a lot of negative reviews, much more than I was expecting based off what critics were saying. So many people were dismissing it as frustrating, obtuse, a waste of time even. Personally, I don't think I've ever had such conflicting feelings about a game before. Walking into a mysterious manor that shifts around every day, finding odd clues that might not make any sense to you just yet, as you stumble your way closer and closer to the rumored Room 46 in hopes of fully unraveling the mystery. Sounds great, right? It is. But you're gonna have to go through a lot of trial and error to get there. I honestly thought the RNG aspect of Blueprints would bother me more than it did though. Getting the right types of rooms in the right order at the right time can be a little bit of a crapshoot, but there are things you can do and discover to stack the deck in your favor, so to speak. No, what really ended up getting to me were the puzzles themselves and the confusion and impatience they brought out in me. At one point, I thought I was about to walk into room 46, had everything lined up, good run going, and then it turns out there was actually something I needed to go back and do before I could get in there, which ultimately meant me starting another run and scrapping everything. And then after all that, I still couldn't get in because of another thing, and that's how a lot of the game goes. Blueprints is a game of high highs and low lows. You discover something really cool only to then feel duped afterwards by something else you didn't know and don't even know how to begin going about learning. A few times I straight up quit out of sheer frustration, thinking, how do they want me to figure that out? This is so unfair. But then my mind would start to wander and I'd be thinking about playing again shortly after. I was curious to see how others were feeling about the whole experience, so I made a post on here, and it seems like we're all kinda in the same boat. Simon said, constantly switching between loving it and hating it, but I keep coming back to it, so it's doing something right. I definitely feel that. And Sophia said, I love how much it stumps me and makes me feel like a freaking genius all in the same run. Now, having tricky puzzles that require careful observation or finding some note hidden way off in another room is great. I'm not saying I want the puzzles to be easy or anything. It really is satisfying to solve some of the more difficult ones, but there are many parts of this game that were just straight up made to be tedious on purpose. One thing I've seen brought up is the lack of any way to keep track of clues and documents in the game. Surreal Pistachio said, I reached the credits and I'm 35 hours in, but I realized that my notebook, to-do list, and screenshots are not enough, so I moved everything to MD files. Great, so I guess now we gotta use a file type that I've never heard of to actually be able to make it through this thing, which is probably at least better than my approach of taking pictures of my TV from across the living room. One of the big tedious things about Blueprints that could totally be fixed in an update and isn't central to its core mechanics or anything is the lack of any way to keep track of the data and clues that you find. And the data and clues that you find are extremely important. They're basically the whole game. Pretty much every single room in the manor contains some sort of note or letter or code or drawing, and the only way to have any chance of ever remembering it again, short of coming back to that room, is by taking a screenshot. To be clear, I'm not a note-taking hater. I very much do like the idea of scribbling down notes like a madman, and I did exactly that when playing through Animal Well, which also doesn't give you any way to keep track of clues. But Animal Well isn't filled with pages and pages of text and lore. A great example of a puzzle game that keeps track of everything for you is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, and I've even seen it thrown around as an alternative game to play in place of Blueprints if you're not into the whole RNG thing. But to me, the puzzles in this game kinda lost their appeal after a while. There's so many cliche puzzle types all just packed into a tiny place, and most of them were on the simpler side. I guess there really is no pleasing me when it comes to puzzle games, huh? Too hard, too easy. Wrong. I think Sokoban games are actually the ultimate perfect puzzle games. Deceptively simple, surprisingly deep. Everything you need is right there in front of you, and the only thing stopping you is not knowing how logs work, I guess. But that's a topic for another video. So I suppose now's a good time to actually answer the question in the thumbnail: is Blueprints a masterpiece? Yes, to a select group of people that are dedicated to logging every detail and going in run after run, doing the same things over and over. For the rest of us, still a super cool game that is, unfortunately, bogged down by some flaws that make it hard to enjoy. I do like this game, and I thought I'd be able to get deeper into the puzzles and the mystery, but I've ultimately decided to stop playing after Layer 1. And even the people who do love Blueprints seem to all agree that it's just not for everyone. And at the end of the day, I think that's kind of a beautiful thing.